For traditional video games, North America, Europe, and Japan have largely been the focus of the market. Not that the other regions are insignificant, but they just get little attention from the media or publishers. South America, in particular, only seems to come up in the news due to sticker shock over the high cost of video game hardware in the region due to import taxes. I'm no expert of the South American market, and each country within it has their own circumstances when it comes to video games. But the general gist is that, for most of the modern video game market's life, piracy has been rampant across the continent due to high prices and limited officially available software. As commonplace as piracy seems, it comes off as a bit of a surprise that, around the turn of the century, Sony was creating a game supposedly aimed at Argentina. Or at least someone told IGN that was the case back in 2000 during their initial coverage of Aconcagua, a game set on the mountain range it's named after. Or maybe they were just making a joke. A bad joke. I don't know. We'll just take it seriously. It seems believable. The PlayStation brand was quite successful in Argentina. A big part of the platform's penetration was due to the ease and low cost of making illegal copies of games on CD-ROMs. But because of this, the install base was there for the console. In addition, Sony has continued to show an interest in the country with consistent, but often limited support for the PlayStation brand, so developing something aimed at this market doesn't seem completely far-fetched. However, the game never launched in Argentina, or any other Western market for that matter. Instead, it was confined to Japan, and overshadowed by the PlayStation 2's release. Its obscurity has led to a lot of misinformation about the game. Aconcagua is mistakenly labeled as a survival horror title, in competition with franchises like Capcom's Resident Evil, but in reality, it's a linear point-and-click adventure game, with an action movie twist. Taking place in the fictional country of Maruza, Aconcagua tells the story of a government trying to solidify their newfound independence from a military dictatorship. The Maruzan president's daughter, Pachamama, acts as a symbol for the country's democratic future. However, an assassination attempt sends her and a plane full of other passengers crashing onto Aconcagua, South America's highest mountain. The player takes control of 5 survivors: Pachamama herself, Kato, a journalist from Japan, Steve, an engineer from the United States, Julia, a journalist whom also comes from the US, and Lopez, a large man with exceptional strength. Using their limited resources, they need to descend down the mountain while avoiding and sometimes combating hostile military troops. The player doesn't directly control the character. Instead, the developers opted for a more traditional point-and-click interface. Hunting for interactable elements and solving puzzles based around them is the core of Aconcagua. A foreign language point-and-click adventure game sounds about as fun as trying to play a visual novel without a translation. Japanese text is a big part of these games. Kind of hard for an English speaker to read and understand. Kuso! But like many Japanese games with the aim of replicating a cinematic experience, the original voices are all in English.
I don't think so. I just hope for a fair election.
How about...
Hey, déjala sola.
Oh, and fitting with the setting, Spanish too. Depending on how many languages you know, you'll get more or less out of this title, but it's plenty enjoyable in just English. While the in-game text is in Japanese, it's surprisingly import-friendly. The levels are designed as small pockets that you progress through in a linear fashion. It's not possible to return to a previous area, leaving the focus on one section at a time. Each environment features a small amount of interactable objects and tools, many of which with relatively clear connections. A fire extinguisher puts out fires, tools can be used to pry open luggage, a sledgehammer can break down loose rubble, an escape raft blows up the helicopter... Well, okay, so maybe there are some weird solutions, but the limited set of options makes it fairly easy to trial and error your way to these conclusions. Instead of focusing on what you're using and where, Aconcagua comes down to who you're using for what. Kato, as a former climber, can scale certain mountainsides. Steve can work with machinery and special tools. Julia has the team's only weapon, and Lopez is able to perform duties that require immense physical strength and a large stature. But maybe the most unique skill of them all is Pachamama's. She's bilingual and able to translate Spanish into English. She'll listen in on radio transmissions, read notes, speak with other characters, and then convey that information to other English-speaking team members.
Rescue is coming. Let's go to the Santa Maria Glacier.
All right! We made it!
Communication in general is a large part of Aconcagua. Characters speaking with each other and understanding situations is essential in solving problems. If a character is able to see something that others can't, they can spread that information and assign tasks for different team members to complete. It's an interesting idea that actually causes a lot of problems for English players. This information is usually delivered through Japanese text only. Not that that's the fault of the game, obviously. This release is intended for a Japanese audience. But there's definitely some tedium between clicking objects and talking with each member of the team. You can only hope that they saw the right thing and spoke with the relevant person to activate certain tasks. While rare, this does result in some tough sequences. One moment in specific involves setting up a radio tower to communicate with resistance forces. It's a fairly convoluted sequence of events and is difficult without any external help. Thankfully, there is an unfinished guide online that, at the very least, provides the answers up until that point. After around halfway through the game though, you're on your own, but nothing else is nearly as complicated. In addition to simplified puzzle solving, the game features some more action-oriented tasks. Running past gunfire, sneaking around guards, and timed puzzles require the player to be quick with directing their survivors. Unfortunately, the control scheme isn't quite up for it. Using the D-pad to move a cursor and then, in turn, direct a character is something I've never seen work great in any console game, Aconcagua not excluded. The lack of precision creates some finicky moments. It's more of an annoyance than anything, but it can lead to the occasional game over. Thankfully, the compact level design and frequent save points mean you'll rarely get thrown back too far, so it's easy to try these scenarios again almost immediately. So is it worth stumbling through a Japanese point-and-click adventure game to see the story of Aconcagua? Kind of. Some of the confrontations in the plot get a bit repetitive. The middle of the game is almost entirely dedicated to characters trying to accuse each other of being spies.
I don't expect any gratitude, but I have done nothing to deserve being called a traitor.
Hey, we gotta work together and find a way to get off this mountain before they put out the fire.
But seeing a diverse cast get thrown through some action movie tropes is all good fun. As a non-Spanish speaker myself, the latter half of the story does become a bit confusing. Early on, a lot of key plot points that are delivered in Spanish are then reconveyed in English. However, the end of the game features significantly more Spanish dialogue with little to no supplemental English. If you can get over the bits of trial and error, it's a neat game that, unfortunately, seems largely ignored. It's definitely one of the more impressive looking PlayStation games. The in-cutscene models are well detailed, albeit a bit jittery as some textures pop in and out of view. There are also a lot of visual effects going on here with the game's snowfall, frequent fires, and explosions. While it's hard to say solely from an English speaker's perspective, I could imagine that, played as intended, the game is quite accessible with its puzzle solutions. Even without an understanding of Japanese, each character's individual skills and talents are communicated well enough that it's easy to piece together solutions with little context through dialogue. I'm also not sure if I've ever seen another game embrace the language barrier between Spanish and English speaking characters, let alone use it as a mechanic. Aconcagua takes every bit of its setting and takes advantage of it. It may not be the easiest game to import and play, but it's definitely far from inaccessible.
¿Qué ha pasado con el guardia de la entrada?
¡Lo encontramos! ¿Quién eres? ¡Lo encontramos!